Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daily Kerbal. Today, satellites. What is a satellite? Well, a satellite is basically a spaceship that doesn't have a pilot on it. It's either a satellite or a probe, basically. Since they don't have pilots on them, that means that we're a lot less worried about them returning or not. Basically, you launch a satellite up in there, you don't ever expect it to return, or if it does, you don't ever really expect to recover it. Anyway, today we are going to be completing a contract about a satellite. We have several of these. I picked up a number of them, and satellites are going to be an extremely important part of our attempts to further explore the deeper reaches of space, or even just our solar system. I mean, our the Kerbal system, let's call it, since we have two moons around us. Satellites generally carry relay antennas. Because they do that, we're going to need to put lots of them out there, just to make sure that we have an active communication system. During our last mission, you probably experienced already that we had some trouble with transmitting science from specific areas of the moon. And it wasn't even necessarily that we were behind the moon or our signal was blocked. Much more like it was just that we couldn't transmit that far, and that's because signals on these satellites are already pretty tough. I mean, the signals traveling through space are already, pretty difficult to get through, so we're going to need a lot of these relay antennas is the point that I'm trying to make here. So I'm just going to go ahead and build this satellite. I'm checking out the specifications for it. We need an unmanned probe that has an antenna and can generate power. Relay antenna, I don't think counts as an antenna in and of itself. So I think even though we do have a relay antenna there, we are going to have to put an actual antenna on it anyway. We also need to reach a designated orbit. This is a pretty high orbit. Yeah, I do remember checking that one out in the tracking station. That was a pretty large orbit. It's almost as far out as the moon is. And we're also going to have a thermometer on it. That part's easy. Now, I specifically chose at the end not to go with the miniature fuel tanks that we had access to back there, so that means that our satellite is going to be propelled by one of these larger engines, which is fine. We can do that. How big are these fuel tanks? Yeah. Okay, so here's how we're going to do this. A satellite this size I don't think is going to require anything larger than monopropellant thrusters to actually move it around. And I don't expect to be moving it around at all once we get out there. So all it has to do is get out into position. Although, honestly, I kind of might as well just attach thrusters to it. Because why not? There, so that's the... this is ugly. Here's how we're going to do this. Let's toss all this. There it is. Shut it off. Shut it all off. And then our primary piece is not going to be the probe core itself, but it's going to be a service bay. We're going to put the probe core inside. Open it. We're going to put the probe core inside this. I'm going to go with the octo because it's cheaper. Put it in like that. Didn't I? No. Inners. There. No. No. Obey me, mouse. Obey me. What the heck? Alright, fine, we'll do that. And the battery goes inside like that. And just because I'm a paranoid little idiot, I'm going to put 2 more batteries in there. Just to make sure that it's got more than enough power to function. We're going to close this. And then that's our probe core. That's where it's going to operate. On the exterior, I am going to place 2 of these solar panels. Those are just kind of there so that even if I leave, the extendable panels shut, then it still has a chance to collect light from somewhere. Those are going to be the solar panels on that part. Then we're going to add 2 fuel tanks to it. to make it look nice and aesthetic. Or I could alternatively just... No, let's put two of them. Like that. There we go. That's the fuel. We're going to use a Terrier on the bottom. And then on the top, we will use a structural fuselage, like so, and place our relay antenna on top of it. That's a pretty big satellite. If I grab it and bring it all the way down here, you can see how big it is compared to the Kerbals. This is a pretty big thing. But compared to the other spacecraft that we've flown, also I'm noticing that for some reason it chose to go with bilateral symmetry on that because I didn't place it directly in the center. Anyway, we're still missing antenna. So we're going to place one of our new communicatrons on it. Where can I put this nicely? That'll do. Now we'll move these down here. This is bilateral right now, isn't it? We don't need two of them. We'll just put one on like that. There we go. Extend it, see what it looks like. That's what it looks like. That's fine. Okay, we can retract that again. And then we shall place solar panels. Actual extendable solar panels. Yeah, these are cheaper. They're cheaper than the ones that are actually covered up, but I don't really care about that much, so I'm just going to get the 3x2s. I'll put them there. We can actually go bilateral on that. And that's it. That's our satellite. This is what the solar panels are going to look like when they're extended. And close that. And what am I forgetting on this, guys? Pop quiz. What did I forget to put on our satellite that is absolutely vital? Well, nothing, but there is something that is definite quality of life improvement. We're going to need some command and control on this. Putting some reaction wheels that big onto the spaceship, onto the satellite, is going to make it extremely maneuverable, considering it's already fairly maneuverable. This will be fine. This is going to be our satellite. Now, let's get all the parts that we need to launch it. We're going to have to get it out pretty far into space. Something that's worth remembering. So, one of the stages that we put on the bottom of this is going to be one of this configuration of Rockomax fuel and a Poodle. Below that, on a larger fuel storage, we will place a skipper. And I am now debating in my own head whether or not I want two twin bores on this. Keep in mind that, you know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. Here is what I'm gonna do. I am going to remove this Poodle engine, replace that with the skipper. And for that matter, I'm also gonna get us some decent fuel for it. There, that's the skipper. Now, below that, running at a bit, extended fuel supply. I am going to place a mainsail. We will be launching this thing on a single mainsail. I'm very curious to see how this works. We're flying a probe. It's a lot lighter than the spacecraft we've been sending up so far. So we've got that going for us. But this is not something that I've tested yet. It's not something that I even considered trying. I will place some more reaction wheels along this side over there. Got aerodynamics, got thrust, got fuel. Oh, I kind of think that I might as well just toss on some more fuel. Not that much fuel, that much fuel. And let's just see if this works. If it doesn't, then we can always just use our usual double twin bore configuration. And let's pray to God that this one actually does have SAS. So we're going to name this one. I'm going to go with Satellite Mark 1. I mean, what more do you need to know? Okay, now in order to complete the contract, we still need, I believe, a thermometer on it. So let's take the science and place a thermometer, a single thermometer, on the satellite. And that is ready to launch once I get the staging set up properly. Alright, well, let's give it a shot. See if a single high thrust liquid engine is enough to get this thing out into space. Activate the SAS module. Let's wait for this wobble to stop. Alright, throttle up. Gonna push it all the way, activate our fuel display. It's already burning through electric charge just by standing there, but it does have an SAS, so that's good. And let's launch it. Liftoff is nice and smooth. Speed is going up at a nice rate. That antenna is extremely unaerodynamic. I might have put some fairing around this. Well, too late to worry about that now. Going a little fast for the aerodynamics there. We're getting drag. Coming close to the point where we can start doing our gravity turn. Let us begin. Tip it just ever so slightly eastward, sorry. Try to conserve fuel on the mainsail as much as we can, but we're doing really good. You have to reach an extremely high orbit with this one, so it helps to have a lot of fuel on board. And if our apoapsis ends up going extremely high, that is absolutely no problem. See that green line? That's what we're trying to reach. The thing is that satellite is eventually going to end up caught in the moon's gravitational pull, which is going to sort of alter its course. It's not going to happen right away, but you know, after it circles around a couple of times, the moon is going to catch up to it, or it to the moon. Anyway, let's just keep burning. We're doing pretty well. The engines generate electric charge, by the way. Just in case I didn't mention that. Okay, we're now burning on the skipper. So we have basically this stage left and the Terrier stage to get into orbit. Get into our designated orbit. I'm beginning to feel reassured as to the amount of fuel that we have on board and whether or not it's going to be enough. Try to pull our probe director a little bit more towards the line. We're doing pretty well. This is one of those things that you're just you know, this whole launching unmanned satellites into space thing. I mean, it's a chore. Pretty much every time I have to go into orbit, I feel like it's a chore. And I wish I didn't have to do it. I wish I could get to the exciting stuff, which is, you know, plotting suborbital space flights on other planets, establishing encounters and performing docking maneuvers. Again, I'm not joking. I actually find those docking maneuvers to be strangely thrilling. It's because there's kind of like a finite amount of control that is required for it. All right, that's a pretty high apoapsis. I'm just going to speed up to it. Our speed is admittedly going to drop down fairly quickly if I do that, but it's all well and good because it is still easier to achieve orbit from this height. All right, there we go. I'm going to switch this to stage U because I'm now forgetting that we don't actually have as much fuel there as I thought we did. Escape velocity is no longer, it's no longer the 2,300 meter per second number that we're looking for because we're higher up. The farther away you are from a planet, the more it's you don't actually need that much speed, right? You're going slower if you're moving farther away from the planet. You're fastest if you move close to it. Yeah, this stage is going to be more than enough for orbit, I think. Question is, how much else is it going to be good for? Periapsis should be appearing any second. There it is. You have to push this up to 70, and maybe just a little bit beyond. There we go. Now, orbital periapsis is over there, and it's 250,000 meters. Roughly. So I'm going to warp us to our periapsis. And then once we're there, I'm going to switch us to our prograde vector and I'm going to extend the apoapsis. Prograde extends most efficiently. Apoapsis extends most efficiently if you burn it periapsis, which is why I'm doing this. See how easily this thing expands. If we have enough fuel left over in it in the end, then, you know, we can count ourselves lucky. There do exist contracts in this game to adjust a satellite's orbit, so if you have fuel left on a satellite once you launch it, then that's good. Let's burn a little bit faster. How's our node? -1 degrees. 1 degrees, I think, is within acceptable margin of error. Very close. Apoapsis is now 250,000 meters higher, but that's fine. Now we shall fly up to apoapsis. Yeah, from here you can see just how much I was off by. We don't have to hit it dead on, though. We have to hit reasonable deviation, which isn't that bad. I do wonder how we managed to shift so far away from equatorial. Also, our electric charge is almost out, so now's the time for me to extend our solar panels. Completely forgotten about that. See, this is what I mean by leaving the SAS turned on. Alright. There we are. Now we extend our periapsis. We are extending it to 10,500,000 meters. It looks like we're accomplishing this goal. Still using that same tank of fuel, which is good. One time I remember I completed a contract like this. It was giving me a heck of a lot of money for what felt like a very trivial space flight. And then afterwards I found out that yeah, it was because I wasn't orbiting in the right direction. And it didn't count. Okay, now we have several corrections to make while we're out here in order to make this orbit acceptable. First off, roughly around this area here. Just gonna plan this. Nope, that's no good. That is, though. We're gonna have to burn somewhat in that direction there. And that'll put us roughly on course. Then we may still have to fix the incline. We'll see how that goes. Yikes. Too fast. Yep, on our next lap we're going to get caught by the moon, like I predicted, so we're going to have to get this done within this orbit. I actually think we can kind of just do it here. That actually saves us from the moon's gravitational pull. Sweet. Okay, let's... Oh, there we go. Green thingy disappeared, the green orbital path, which means that we've achieved it. Now we just gotta hold here for 10 seconds. And our contract is complete. Excellent. Now, I like to give my satellites designations. So that is what I'm going to do here. This is going to be... It's a relay, basically, and we're going to call it... Kerbal Satellite 01. We're going to have more, so it's good to have these ones designated. I don't necessarily feel the need to name every single one of the satellites that I launch. It's not important. Just because I don't want this whole thing to be stuck out here forever. I'm just going to decouple what's left of that fuel tank, and then this is going to be the actual satellite. It's going to be out here. I'm going to flip it towards the sun so that it'll always be gathering power. It's got its relay antenna out, and it is now ready to start transmitting communications back to Kerbin, or away from it to wherever need to be transmitted. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. Can turn on somewhere in this view, I think. Yeah, it's over here. ComNet path. This basically just makes sure that we can send signal back to Kerbin, but if I click on it again, then it'll link all the vessel links. It's currently communicating with all of the surface stations on Kerbin as well as Kerbin Station, I think. It is not communicating with the lunar station. Unless... Nope, still isn't. It's not communicating with the lunar station. I wonder if that's just because it's too far away. See what happens if we get a little closer. Nope. Very interesting that this does not appear to be communicating with the lunar station. I wonder what the reason for that is. Lunar station does have a... It does have an antenna, doesn't it? Yep, there it is. It has a comms antenna. For some reason the relay doesn't work. Huh. Oh well. Not a big problem. Now I wonder what that purple one is. That's another satellite that it wants us to place out there, but anyway, I'm gonna basically turn off the relay symbols because after a while we're gonna have a lot of these around there. And that pretty much does it for today's episode of the Daily Kerbal. We got our first satellite out into orbit. There will be others to follow. If for no other reason that we have several contracts, including one to put one in polar orbit of the moon, in the specific orbit of the moon, and then we have several rescue ones and all that. Well, what's new here? New orbital station around Kerbin, no thanks. I want to stay with the one. I'll take the plant the flag on the moon one because we're going to be doing that in the future. That was probably the purple line that we saw. We've got another orbital rescue. Orbital station on a solar orbit. Well, there's something to think about. I don't think I'm going to do it. But that's the first time I've seen this contract before, and it's very tempting. Well, guess we're just going to have to wait and see. Till next time, everybody. Bye-bye.